All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, you're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Moving on to our first discussion. You know, there's been a lot of global discussions about the role of small businesses in the development of an economy. Now, without small businesses, and particularly in developing countries, an economy will definitely collapse. In Nigeria, 27% of the country's trade balance comes from small businesses, but more importantly, they employ 60 million Nigerians and contribute 48% of the GDP. Now, an entrepreneur is here in the studio with us to share his experience in running a business in Nigeria. He's Engineer Mohammed Onotu, founder of Productive Youth Network and Read to Rise Nigeria Limited, and he's also author of the book, What I Will Do If Unemployed. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
You have quite a resume, very interesting. Now, we get to see a lot of businesses, you know, but very, very few of them make it through. Some of them get to collapse, you know, midway. What really is the problem as someone who has started up a business and is doing quite well?
You know, the primary objective of any business owner is to be able to have a platform to have your aspiration pushed and at the same time being fulfilled and also have a profitable venture. So when you have this, one of the things that comes to mind is that do you have a structure that can really support your pattern of idea? And you know, for you to have any business idea, it's a product of three factors: your skills, your experience, and definitely your environment. So these three forms a level of synergy. So when you're a business owner, the first thing that you're looking at is, my venture is going to be profitable, and at some point will I be fulfilled? So when you have a structure that is not sufficient enough to propel you on that path, you know, the challenges definitely starts to build up.
Oh.
Now, would you actually say Nigerian businesses are innovative or original? Because we've had a lot of instances where, you know, once someone starts up a business, you know, a lot of other people, other businesses actually copy that same idea.
You're quite correct. You know, there are two things that drives entrepreneurship. It's either born out of necessity or born out of opportunity. So what you find out within our segment in Nigeria basically is that a lot of people, because of the high level of unemployment, are driven by necessity. So when you find yourself on that level, the next line of action is, what is the easiest way to jump into just for survival? So it's not necessarily out of maybe passion, out of maybe opportunity that you're seeing that you want to provide a solution to. So I think this is one of the major problems, because a lot of people are driven out of necessity for survival into businesses. So when you have, it's just like POS businesses, we have tons of people going into POS businesses, not as if it's inclined towards the aspiration, because they think they have no any other option. So which also limits the innovation drive.
Right.
So when you have this, a lot of people need to also reflect inwardly and see, what can we do innovatively to address certain problems in the society, which can also be value-driven, which invariably would also be profitable going forward.
Okay. Now, to set up a business, you know, particularly for somebody who's just starting out, you need funds, you need money. Would you say Nigeria has explored, for instance, you know, seed funds, you know, or loans and some forms of ways to get money to actually start up your business? Would you say that's going well?
It's quite tricky, you know, because there's already this mindset that if you don't have strong level of connection, there are lots of opportunities that you don't have access to, which if you weigh it to a large extent, there's a reasonable level of fact to it. So when you talk about the proceeds, because of our population, we have a level of unique population. For instance, if you look at the statistics, we have an average of 18.4 years of our average age as Nigerians, and the population is like over 200 million, which is increasing by the day. So when you have such, the seed, the proceed, the capital market needs to have a level of step up in order to be sufficient enough. So this is where we find ourselves. So we have a little space and tons of people competing for the proceeds in order to invest into. So we need to also step that up in order to be able to compensate for the population that we have.
Okay, so now what type of a business ecosystem is, best suited for small businesses in Nigeria and also the development of these businesses?
If you look at the trend ongoing, you see that there's lots of proceeds coming in from technology. So we're looking at it that, okay, can we have a level of evaluation, especially with our TVETs, technical and vocational aspects, so that we can see, can there be a level of spring up with respect to innovation? Because this is where the future of the world economic lies. So can we key into this? Because if we're looking at the normal petty business, buying and selling that we're used to, is this sufficient enough to grow our economy? No. So that means we need to also now go back to the drawing board and see how can we, as even small businesses, as startups, because if you look at it, we have the potential for our startups to contribute to about 76% to our GDP. But are we doing enough? So which areas are we contributing to? So we cannot all just move into buying and selling and say we are entrepreneurial in nature. So what are the other options we can explore? So we need to also evaluate this as individuals and collectively as a nation.
Okay, so in terms of public-private partnerships, how important is it that we see that synergy in helping, small businesses grow?
It's quite necessary, you see. Because when you have that, let me give you an example. For instance, if you see Federal Medical Center, it's functioning well. Why? Because it's public-private partnership. So there's that level of checkmating each other. The private entity is looking at it that, okay, we have to on a minimum level, have a level of, let's have an idea of when we're going to get to our profitable margin. And the government is also looking at it. We have our assets. How can the partnership go in such a way that it's profitable? So both parties can checkmate each other and help each other, because there's a limit in which a private entity, especially if you're a startup, the government has the might. So if there's that level of synergy, it creates the ease of doing businesses, because there's already a scope aligned that is structured to create that ease of doing business, because there's that level of partnership, there's that level of synergy, and the interest are intertwined. So when you have such, everyone looks out for the interest of one another. So that's when, if there is synergy, there's potential for prosperity, and there's also the chances of being able to do more.
Okay, now you talked about technology earlier, and Microsoft has actually expressed worry, at the rise of cyber threats, saying businesses, especially in Nigeria, lack protection. What can these businesses actually do to, protect themselves from, cyber threats?
I think one of the major things that is needed is in any line of business, you need to have a well-researched platform before kickstarting. So it's not just something you jump into, because everything comes with its own challenges. And especially in fintech sector, you need a level of database, you need a level of research to be able to have a well-defined structure that would safeguard you, either with respect to your data, either in terms of your day-to-day running of your businesses. And also what is also key is that every startup, especially with what you've said now, that level of research is key, because it's not just something you jump into. That's why you see most of startups in that line, they face lots of challenges, especially with regulation. Because lots of people jump in without having the basic fundamentals. Okay, what are the licenses we need? What are the platforms we need? What's secured gateway platforms do we need in order to safeguard our transactions? So when you have this, you need to now fall back and reflect that, okay, before you go into any of this scope of businesses, there should be a well-researched platform. There should be, that foundational support, so that you know that these are the potential challenges you're going to face, and these are the solutions that should checkmate such going forward.
Okay, let's direct this to a layman, for instance, that doesn't know all of the, complexities of what you've just attributed now. Some people, if they want to start up a business, they have an idea. Okay, I want to start up a bread business. Some people just jump into it. Let me just start selling bread and all of that. And then for experienced business owners, you get to hear a business plan and some other things and all of that. For someone who has an idea and wants to start up a business, apart from the business plan, what are some of the things that you need to consider before you start up your business?
Okay. You know, the thing I usually tell people is there's so much emphasis on business plan, and sometimes some people don't understand what the jargons are. So when you talk about business plan, in a layman, it's just you having an understanding of the scope of what you're getting yourself into, meaning that the operational side and also the financial side.
Right.
So have you done sufficient? So if you have an idea, for instance, as a startup, as a layman, the first thing that needs to be done is to do research. This idea is already in place. And so that in order for you not to reinvent the wheel, there are things that have already been tried with respect to the line of business. Let's assume the business you've mentioned. Make research. What have those people done well that made their businesses thrive?
Right.
What were the challenges that they faced? You know, you've not started now. You're at the foundation level, and you're making research.
Right.
So that you're able to learn from the scope of those that have actually gone ahead of you. But if it's a new business, you need to also still make further research that this idea of yours, is it necessary? Is it needed at the moment? Is it addressing any problem? So if it is yes, so the next line of action, you've done your research, is to do market survey. Is it profitable? So what are the things that you're going to need, in order to kickstart this business? Then, we said it at the initial stage that the business plan is just to give you that scope of idea that, okay, operationally, these are the requirements that you need. Financial-wise, and these are the set objectives. This is the problem, this is the solution that this business will be providing. These are the outcomes.
Right.
So when you have such in your mindset, the next line you should say, okay, what business model? This is where a lot of people have
quite a lot of challenges.
Yes. What is the business model? Business model is all about the management sequence that would come along with it. So what entails the business model? For instance, you're talking about your value proposition. What will you be offering that will be totally different from others? You can still be doing your POS business, but the value that you add to it drives more customers to you because it is clearly unique from others. The other thing you'll be considering is, okay, I have my well-defined value proposition. What market segment am I looking at? Who are my customers? What age duration am I looking at? What segment? Aside from that, you're also looking at it, okay, I've sorted that out. The next line is that, okay, key partners. Who can I partner with? Who are those that I can collaborate with to make my business thrive?
Grow.
You see that you're already making lots of assessments.
That's quite a lot, because a lot of people don't look at that.
The next one you're asking yourself is that, okay, I've done my market segment, fine, I know my partners. The other thing that you're looking at is that my revenue streams. What are the things, how can I channel, all this, my businesses? So that comes to the next fragment, the channels. What are the routes, that you're going to move your businesses, what would be the most suitable location for you in order for your business to thrive? Because, for instance, as a startup, you need to be very careful. The easiest thing to do is to, especially when you have lots of funds, is to just keep spending without, when you don't have a structure, the easiest thing that would happen is the business not to be profitable.
Terrible.
Because at no point will you hit a break-even point. So you need to have the structure in place, in order for you to have it at the back of your mind. Then one other thing that you need to consider is business registration. Because for your business to be legit, it needs to be registered with CAC, the Corporate Affairs Commission. So a lot of people are running businesses with names, with wonderful names, but not registered.
Wonderful
and
names.
they tell you So you need to evaluate that also.
That's quite a
the
lot.
Lego body that would make your business Lego in Nigeria is CAC. So you need to have that at the back of your mind also. So going forward.
Okay, so one thing a lot of, small-scale businesses underestimate, are business threats. It's one thing to, start up a business, with the euphoria and everything, but there are threats that actually come, while the business is ongoing that either, if you're able to handle it well, makes, or if you're not, mars your business. How can they identify these threats?
You've mentioned something very key. Identification is another thing. You being aware that there is a threat is another thing. Most people feel that business is just something that you just jump into. So when you are in that, the level of awareness is low. So, but for instance, one of the key factors that makes people very scared to go into business is the fear of unknown, uncertainty. You're looking at it that would the monetary policy favor me? With the capital market, is it going to be sufficient enough to support my businesses? The ease of doing businesses. So when you see lots of threats that go, some of the threats that goes into most of the businesses, some of the monetary policies might not be favorable. Sometimes when you look at also the environmental factors, for instance, you're doing, which example? You have a sewing business, for instance, and all your machines are electronic. And you're looking at it that one of the major factors you're going to face is power. And you're asking yourself, okay, how much will I be spending on servicing my generator in order to, and you're looking at it that this alone I will not be able to meet up. So in order to be able to face this, to be able to have a strategic plan towards converting this threat, research, like I said, is key. Before you go into a business, you've weighed your location, the location you're going into, and you say, okay, they have maybe 14 hours of power, and you'll be at the office space between 8 to 5 p.m. How much, you'd have done your level of evaluation. That number one evaluation, that research would have also given you a level of preparation to combat the threat. Then also the next line is that, okay, when this goes out of hand, are there people, what are the leverages? Do I need a level of partnership? For instance, should I just go ahead and get a space in a plaza and just pay my service charge? Or should I go to a place where I will be the one to buy my own generators? You see that you're incurring another cost. So these threats can easily be combated with a huge level of preparation and research starting up the business. Then during the business operation, you also look at leverages that can help you sustain any level of challenges that unfolds.
Okay. This is more personal, than technical.
Okay.
We're not being sellouts here, but when you started your business, what are some of the challenges you encountered and how did you get through them?
You see, for instance, if you have an idea that is unique, especially something that you look at your left, you look at your right, and no one is doing it. The first thing that you need to do is to create a structure for yourself. And one of the major challenges that comes up with starting up any business is personnel. You as a founder, you might have the vision, fantastic idea of how you want your business to be, but you can't be everywhere.
Right.
Which is one of the major challenges most schools, private schools face. The founders, the owners have fantastic ideas, the vision of how they want their schools to be. But the challenge is the personnel to help you in the operational activities. Because you as the founder, you can be everywhere. You as the owner of the business. So the first challenge that comes is people to key into the vision that you have. Then when you leave that stage, that means you need to now create a structure of personnel. Okay, how do you assemble a good team, to help you in doing this? Then the next line of action is, okay, you have a good team, fantastic. Now, how do you sustain the team? Because everyone has their own aspiration. Maybe you're putting one of your team members on 100,000 and the guy is looking outside and I'm getting an offer of 150. The easiest thing that can do is the person leaves you.
Oh my.
And leaves and that's one of the major challenges fashion business owners are having.
Yeah.
Because they are tailors, they are only loyal to the income. So they are there, they are looking at it that, okay, my organ knows that I'm the best tailor here. So the guy can decide not to come on a day just to serve as an indirect level of protesting that, see, I know you're making money, and you have to also know that I'm the main person making your business work. Without having the idea that you've also invested, without the brand, there would not have been any platform for the tailor to excel.
Right.
So one of the basic challenge every business owner would always have is having that, that strong theme to help you in pushing, and also definitely the capital.
All right, thank you so much for your insightful, perspective on, small businesses in Nigeria. Hopefully, we'll have you again, and it's very
And I hope
soon.
to have a look at your
Yeah.
book
Thank
and
you
also
so
learn
much.
what I do.
No problem.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so that was Engineer Mohammed Onotu, founder of Productive Youth Network and Read to Rise Nigeria Limited, and author of the book that Zainab wants to have a read.
Yes, I would love to have that.
What I Will Do If Unemployed. We'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, we'll move on to the second discussion.